Hi everyone, it's Karen. I'm back today with my tag number 2 in the hashtag 52 tags handmade, and had a request to tutorial on how I did my card. So I thought this week I would do a tutorial, and last week I did mention I was using playing cards for my tags, and so playing card and then gessoed on both sides, a couple coats of gesso. You can write on gesso, so that makes it nice for the back side of the card. And then to make the tab for the top of my card, I've just cut out a circle. I think this is it's a 2-inch circle, and then you just need to cut 2 chunks out of the sides of each side of it. So you can either use a smaller punch to do that, or you could just fold it in half and do a little bit of a cut on each side, just to make yourself a tab that is going to fit on the top of your card. And then I just punched a hole with a regular dollar store hole punch, and then I put a clear reinforcement on there just to give it a little more stability, and I did that on both sides of the card. So this is my card ready for this week. Tag number 2, and it's a heart, and mine this week is "My heart has been stolen" by a little boy, and his name is Rowdy. And as you know, that some of you, that is my grandson. He is going to be a month old the end of this week, and he certainly he takes up as much time of Nana's time as he wants to. So this is what I've decided to do for this week. I'll show you the heart in a second. So I chose this fabric. This little piece is actually from a fabric I had purchased at just one of those little fat squares, and I can't remember where I got it from. Frayed out the edge of it. I love the frayed look on fabric, so I don't worry about finishing things. Little strip of this has a little bit of that pink in it, tied together, and then has some little blue dots on it, which I plan on accenting. And then I chose this piece, a little piece of lace on the side here, and I'm going to accent. I've started already because I'm not going to do all the slow stitching on camera. It's painful to just watch, I think. I did start some straight stitches here, and I will just continue those up and down through here. Some French knots in a pink colored, this is a perle cotton, and I'm going to use that to put little French knots in between these and on these little flowers. Like I said, I'm going to attach this fabric down by using French knots in blue on that fabric. And then I'm doing some, you can see I've started already. I've taken 2, so I have a total of 4 threads here this is just DMC embroidery floss. One is a dark brown and one is a rust color, and I have 2 threads of each threaded on a needle here, just because I like doing sometimes 2 colors mixed together. Although it's hard to see on camera, you do get a nice blend of the colors there, which blends in nicely on the fabric. And all I'm doing here is a stab or straight stitch, and I don't worry about being exact. And with this, I usually go down into the fabric and then come up try to be in a straight line from where I was before. So pulling it down, so you get your second stitch here from this one. I find that if I hold my fabric this way and I put my needle in to the fabric, and then looking at the stitch on this side, I can sort of stagger them a little bit better, and I sometimes even will go up and down a couple times. I don't worry about my stitches all being the same length. I actually like them different lengths. I don't find that it's necessary, and to really enjoy slow stitching is not to worry about it being, you know, all so perfect. I just think that in the end, the frayed edges on the fabric, the stitches being less perfect, is a much nicer way of doing this. It's so relaxing, and you can see I'm just going up and down with the needle a couple of times and then pull it through. The one thing that's important is keeping your tension, because it's very easy to pull too hard on the stitches, and then what happens is you get your fabric all bunched up, and that doesn't look very nice. So I usually hold my thumb on top of my needle there as I'm pulling it through. It controls the thread coming through, and then when you get to the end, give it a little tug, and then also just smooth the stitches back the opposite way to make sure they're staying nice and smooth. So you can see my stitches are not the same distance apart from each other. You know, this row has gotten a bit closer. Whoops, this row has gotten a bit closer here as I went down, and again, just not worrying about that. I've done enough projects now to realize that the less you worry about all that, the more fun this process is. And you can see that this area is going to be all these straight stitches, and that is going to continue right across this edge. This side of the fabric, so I'm going to put this back into place here and pin this because we're not worried about that right now. This side, I'm doing the stab, again, straight stitches or stab stitches, and I'm just using the line in the lace, using a cream colored perle cotton, and I'm just going up and down. You want to keep your fabric straight when you're going up and down, because otherwise your stitches won't look straight. And again, I'm not worrying about them being exact. I'm just going up and down in this little groove in the lace. Your card doesn't come into play. My card's here. It doesn't come into play right now. It will come into play at the very end, when I stitch my finished stitch project. So that's that row done. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to add in some more stitches, and I'm going to come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, I thought I'd come back and just show you that I have finished the stitches on the side here, and my heart's going to go on top of here yet, so that's to come. And I wanted to show you just the French knots that I've decided to do to hold down this piece of material. It has these little blue dots in the fabric, and I often find that if you just use things that are on the fabric itself to help you along in making decisions, it's actually quite useful. I have this sparkly metallic thread. It's a very thin thread. I use them in my slow stitching because I sometimes mix them with regular thread. This time I've just used 2 strands of it together. It's still very thin thread like this. I just wrap it more times around my needle. You wrap it around the needle. So I just found that 5 times with this thin, so there we go. I've wrapped it 5 times around my needle. And then what you're going to do is you just go back down through the same hole that you came up. So there it is, directed into the fabric. And what I do is I hold all the little loops. I like them down against the fabric when I'm going through. So again, I'll just try and move out of the way so I can show you. So all 5 of those loops are right there, ready right at the fabric, and the needle is through the fabric. And now you're going to pull the needle straight down, pulling it down, and the thread is going to come down and go through those little knots and form your little French knot. Now this one, because my thread got a little uneven, it did make the knot a little bigger. If you're gonna want perfection, you're just gonna have to practice, because you know, they don't all come out the same, and I just don't fuss about that. I have learned that in the end, all of them looking precisely the same isn't necessarily a better look. Again, wrapping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times around my needle, poking the needle back down into the fabric, right beside where you came up, pulling your wraps right down to where they're right next to the fabric, then holding them there in place as you holding them in place as you pull your needle straight down through them, and pull, and all the way down and down. And there you have another little knot. So I am going to go down and I'm going to do all these little blue dots right down, and when I'm finished that, I'll come back. Okay, I'm back and just finishing up. So you can see that I did some pink French knots in the middle of these little flowers down the side here, and that kind of brings a little bit of pink that's in this fabric along the edge. I did the blue French knots over top the little blue dots in the fabric on here, so that's attach that piece of fabric on. I've laid my heart down and started attaching it. I had stitched the little gold bugle beads on already the other day, and now I'm just stitching it onto my actual piece here. I've just got 2 strands of burgundy embroidery floss, and because I want this to be I don't want the stitches to be seen. If I did want the stitches to be seen, I could attach it differently. You could attach it with stitches around the edge and make the stitches more prominent. In this particular case, I just want them not. So I take a long stitch at the back and a very short stitch at the front. So the only last thing I'm going to finish now is doing the French knots. Now this, when I was doing the French knots with the blue, I used 5 loops around the needle because this is really thin thread. This one is a perle cotton, I think it's a 5, so it's thicker. So I'm just going twice around my needle and then back down through the center of the flower. So you can see the knots formed there, and you just pull through. And then coming up in the middle of this next bigger flower, and again, just watch your tension. It's easy to pull too hard, you want to pull back. Then wrapping twice around the needle, poke the needle down again, just beside where you had come up, and pulling the knot down in place, kind of holding it there, and then pulling through. And there I have my 3 knots at the top. So I'm going to this next stitch here, and I'm just bringing the thread underneath, and then I'm going to go through and through the loop, and then through the loop again. So 2 loops, and you've got a nice knot there, and you can clip that down. This is my previous knot, and that's my little piece for this week, and all finished. And then to attach it to the card, I'm doing it the same way that I did last week and the same way that Anne showed on her channel. So I just have a length of a cream colored, I'm using a perle cotton. A good way to start is to come through the back of your material here up to the top. Now I have a French knot right there, so it does make it a little bit more difficult, but I'm going to come there beside it and come up so that your knot is hidden behind your piece that you've just finished. I'm gonna cut the tail off because otherwise it may get sticking out where I don't want it. And so your first stitch is going to be back through your fabric. Just do a small little stitch like I was doing around the heart, and it's hidden there, you can't even see it. Well, almost can't see it, you have to really look. And then I want to go through my card, so I just want to get this lined up nice and even so I know where I'm going through, and just stab through your tag or your card, whatever you're using. And there's your first attachment. Next attachment will be down at the bottom. And again, you just go down and don't go too close to the edge, because if you're using cards particularly, you'll end up stabbing through the, like ripping the card, and you don't want to do that. So there's your first attachment, and it's come out, you've come right through the material, and then you'd go back down and come back through this hole. I probably didn't take enough thread to finish this completely, but that's okay. No problem. And there you go. There's two. That side's all attached. Again, you'd come across to this corner, and you want to go through your tag or through your card. Then you want to go directly up and through your material. And that's that one done. And then again, just take a very small little stitch right next to that one, and then come back through the hole you already made. Now, if you end up coming through the same, you don't take a little stitch, what'll happen is you're going to come straight back through the hole. So you do have to watch. I'm going to knot it off here, and I'll just show you here. You just run it through here and make a knot, and I would do it twice, so going under that thread and then through your loop and pull. And I'm going to just snip that off, and I'm going to get another piece of thread, and I'm going to finish off the back. So I'm going to just again, I'm going to go, I've got a knot here, so I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go through the fabric to hide my knot. So hiding my knot in the fabric, and if you cut the tail, then you know it's well hidden, and you don't go right on the corner, because you're going to fray your fabric out, or you're going to you're going to be disappointed with how it looks. So a little tiny spot, and then down and through your card. And again, smooth it all down so that you don't see it. And I kind of adjusted that stitch a little bit, and then it's hidden that corner. And again, you're going to go straight up to the top. You want to match it fairly close to the other side. It just looks neater. And you just hold everything down and push through. And if you want it to come up under your lace, then just, if you've got a layer effect there, then just push your lace aside and come up underneath it like I have done here. And then again, this is going to be hidden. So now I'm going to go just beside where I came up, but go back down through that hole, hidden there underneath that little flower. And then the last one is just over to here, and then this one you just can anchor it. You don't need to go back up. So you're going to come around and go around again, so you've got a loop, and pull it, and then a second time for good measure, at least two, and again pull it. So I have a knot there, and snip. And there it's attached all the way around. None of that stitching shows on this side. And there it is, finished. So I hope that that was helpful for those that wanted to see how I put mine together and how I do it. And that is tag number 2 in #52 tags handmade. Okay, have a great week, you guys. Bye.